Alright, so this is the what the clutch consists of. Starting with the flywheel. The clutch actually bolts to the back of this. Here's the new one. These pins right here go into here, and they all line up like so. See, bolt lines up, divot, hole lines up. New pressure plate. That's the this is the friction side of the flywheel. This is the side that faces the motor. So, old one got a little bit of rust on it. The friction side, this is where the pressure plate rides. You can see how it's all discolored and mirror finish. That always means that they got their money's worth out of it. So, you know, and then lots and lots of carbon buildup, which is perfectly normal. Every clutch I've ever done has had that. Well, except for one, but that's a whole nother story. Then you have your clutch discs. This is the piece that acts like a brake rotor, or I should say a set of brake pads. So this goes on here like so. The as you can tell, the side that pops out goes towards the transmission. Otherwise, the the pressure plate will not fit on there. So actually, that one's the old one. You can tell one's shiny, one's not. But basically, it goes like that. Then this one, again, shiny part of it. That's where it rides, and it fits right like so, as you can tell. So all the little dimples fit in it. So there's 3 of those all the way around. And then once that's pushed down, the plate will have pressure on it. That's what actually holds it in place when you release the clutch. So the pilot bearing, which is what I was having a pain in the ass to get out. There's the old one that did not want to come out. That actually goes in the very back of the flywheel, as I showed you. And in comparison, it basically sits here. So then you have the throw bearing, which I showed you previously, because in training, you know, 200,000 miles. Actually looks pretty good for that. So still got a few shiny spots, lots of carbon buildup, not big. But it actually still spins fairly good. So yeah, they definitely got a good life out of this one. So this one's a slightly different design, but does the same thing. Now I will show you here in a second. I'm going to install this thing first. I'll show you what to clean up and what to grease, all that stuff, because you can't just put it in. I mean, you can put it in there dry, but the service life is going to be a whole lot shorter. So I'll show you what to grease up here in just a second. But anyways, this thing sits on this thing. You got to put the part that spins, as you can see. Put that up against the forks on the pressure plate, and then as those push down, it lifts the plate up off the disc, and that's what allows you to shift. So this basically does this. So give me a second. I'll show you what to do on the flywheel, or on the input shaft to the transmission, and we'll go from there. Okay, I usually just get a rag and wash it off. Generally, I pull this thing off, not this thing, the clutch fork. But it's actually moving really, really well. Actually, I'm going to pull it off so I can grease the inside, but I'll actually show you what I'm talking about by that. It's got a little ball in there, right there, where it actually glides on this. So I'm gonna clean everything up and grease it and all that good noise. So, but anyways, you end up cleaning off this real good. give me a second, I'll show you guys the after product. Okay, so this is the clutch fork. Kind of dirty as hell. The throw bearing rests right in here. As you can see the wear marks in there. And then it pivots on this point right here, which this thing is dirty as hell. And then the clutch slave cylinder pushes against this. So when it's operating, it's literally doing this. Or actually like that. So kind of rough to visualize. This is the clip that holds it in there. Also dirty, clips in, that's what holds it to the pivot point. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and I will show it to you after it's cleaned up. Okay, so I cleaned it up a little bit. It's not perfect. I don't expect it to be. I just got a lot of the dust off it. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Then it race car, just a 30-year-old work truck, so it doesn't have to look and aesthetically be perfect, but got most of the dust off and cleaned up the metal points a little bit. Now I'm going to grease it down. Alright, so grease down the contact points where the throw bearings will be riding, the pivot points, and where the slave cylinder rides. So I got to put this on something so it won't actually touch and contaminate the grease any more than it already is. So next I'll show you the how you install the fork with the throw bearing. Forgot, I cleaned off the clip a little bit that holds the fork to the pivot point, so it doesn't need to be awesome. I just cleaned a little bit of the obvious crap off it and then just reinstalled it. Throw bearing installed on the clutch fork. As you can see, the little clips go around it, and the bottom of the clips fit into little grooves in the fork. And then the clip kind of stops it right there. So that is it installed. Clips go in the back towards the fork. That way the piece that moves is actually on the front, because you want that to face the clutch. That's what it looks like with the boot reinstalled too. So this is the complete assembly for the fork and the throw bearing. Alright, so flywheel's installed, pilot bearings installed. One thing I do like to add is when you install anything that is, I gotta use my high torque, my impact on. I generally try to do crisscross pattern just like you do with the tire. You don't have to, just something I like doing, especially if it's high torque situations. So I'm gonna get the clutch mounted in here in just a second, and really pretty and shiny, huh? So. Oh, and then one other thing I forgot to mention is with the transmission, always drain the fluid before you drop the transmission when it takes a couple pounds off it. Yeah, there's a lot less chance of you spilling everywhere, so just forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah. Alright, so clutch plate and disc are back in. When you put these two in, you need to make sure there's grease on the alignment tool. This is what comes with the clutch kit. It comes with the plate, the disc, the bearing, and the pilot bearing and the throw bearing. So this comes in, and this is meant to, you gotta put this in to the clutch disc. See the splines on there. This slides right in. And then what you want to do is you want to slide this in. The snout of this tool goes inside the pilot bearing. And you want to make sure that when you get everything aligned, you want to make sure that this thing slides in and out easily. And then you want to tighten. I always pick where the dowel is, and I start tightening those, or all the ones that are close to dowels. So this one, there's this one, and then there's one up here on top. So you do those three. You get them finger tight, make sure it's not moving. You tighten them all down, make sure it's not moving again. Put the other three in, and then you tighten them all down. Then you go through and you make one final torque on it, and after that it should be ready to go. And your final measure is slides in easily, slides all the way in to get the grease all the way to the back, So now the transmission is ready to go back in. So this is the final look when everything is done and ready to roll. And the next thing I show you will be the transmission being mounted back in. Alright? Transmission's installed. As you can see, there's the tail shaft. So the drive shaft goes. I got the transmission mount installed. 2 bolts. Really kind of hard to tell. But there's a bolt up in here, another one up in here, and then there's 2 up top, 4 down here, and then these 2 and 2 on the opposite side. Let's see, I got all the bell housing bolts installed. We got the master cylinder, the slave cylinder installed. That was these 2 bolts. Got that lined up with that. This is the clutch fork that I showed you previously. Got that installed. Got the starter installed, which is really hard to tell from back here. The starter is right up here. There was 1 bolt that went in this way to the bell housing, and then there was one that went in this way, or the opposite way to the bell housing. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that before. I think I've got a horrible memory though, so I could be wrong. Oh, here's a better view of it. So, starter is installed. The pigtail for the backup lights. Speedometer is installed. Now we just got to do the drive shaft. Put the shifter in. And then fill it up with some gear oil, which is a wonderful amount of time. Oh, I've also got to connect the structure bar, or frame, sway bar, or whatever you want to call it. But it's just another frame bar. I'm going to install this beast again on both sides. Nothing big. So I'll get that done real fast. Drive shaft back in here and fill it up with some fun and get it out of my garage. So, let me show you the where the shifter is going from the top view. Okay, this is where the shifter is going. This is the top view of where the shifter goes. I already showed you that on earlier. It's kind of a unique shifter, but again, it's a 1990 Toyota 1-ton pickup, dually. Very rare, really rare. Alright, so I'm done with the top of the shifter install. Now, this cover gets screwed on. There's 4 screw holes. This is just an extra plastic, but there's a plate right here. Remove this so you can kind of. So there's 4 of these to go all the way around in here. As you can tell, the edge of the plate. And this goes in between this and the plate to screw down this assembly. And then once that's done, all we got to do is fill the transmission and lower the vehicle, and it's on its way. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and I'll show you the what it looks like when it's installed. And see you in a minute. Alright, finished product after installation. So all 4 of them installed, boot with shifter. So and then reverse. So fill up the tranny, lower the vehicle. Alright, so I am Now filling the transmission up. We're going to use a, let's see, an 80-90 light for this one. Drain plug is right there. So it drained the transmission before you pull it down. Last thing to do before you start it is fill it up. You want to fill it up until the fluid is actually leaking back out the fill hole. We're only got a quart down, and then I'm using a electric pump to pump it in because hand pumps suck. This was like, I don't know, $20, $30 on Amazon. Well worth it. I've used it many times. Just hook it up to a 12-volt source. I kind of had to rig it because the cable is only like 3 feet long. So, but very easy to use. I got another quart ready to go after this one's empty. And then I got my drain pan here waiting for it to start leaking out when it's full. So as soon as I get this done, I'll put the plug back into it, which is right there, and fire it up, and I'll send you guys a video of it running. Okay, so when the gear oil starts leaking out the filler tube, you know that the transmission is full. Make sure you got a pan under so you can catch it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the fill plug, yank out the hole. God, come on. Go ahead and tighten that bitch. Go ahead and tighten that thing up. Turn off your transfer pump. And then give me a minute, I'll start it up and get it up off the jack stands I got it on. And I do have a 3.5 ton floor jack that I use primarily for everything with a training jack. So, give me 1 second.